In 2004, Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook in a Harvard dorm room. He didn't ask whether you wanted it. He didn't ask whether society was ready for it. He simply built it, and the world stepped inside. 20 years later, 4.9 billion people use social media every single day. That number is larger than the population of any religion on earth, larger than the number of people who have electricity, larger than the number of people who have clean drinking water, and among those 4.9 billion people there is no you. Or maybe you are there, but you keep asking yourself why. Why do you still open the app even when you don't want to? Why do you put your phone down, only to pick it back up 30 seconds later? Why do your evenings disappear without you even remembering what you spent them on? Today, we are not going to talk about whether social media is good or bad. That question is too simple for a problem this complex. Instead, we are going to ask a different question. What really happens inside the mind of someone who chooses to step away, not because they don't understand technology, not because they are afraid of being seen, but because they notice something that most of us still haven't seen. Let's begin with a truth that social media companies never say out loud. You are not their customer. You are the product. The real customers are advertisers, the ones paying billions of dollars to capture your attention. And that attention only has value as long as you keep staying on the screen. Tristan Harris, the former design ethicist at Google, once explained this very clearly. He said that the real competition of social media platforms is not with each other. Their competition is with your sleep. They want as many minutes of your day as possible. And to achieve that, they hired the best behavioral psychologists in the world, the smartest engineers in the world, and gave them one single mission: how to keep human beings from looking away from the screen. And what was the result? A machine perfectly designed to exploit the most fundamental vulnerabilities of human psychology: the fear of missing out, the need to belong, the desire for recognition, the instinct for social comparison. These are not your personal weaknesses. They are part of humanity's evolutionary hardware, shaped over hundreds of thousands of years of living in small communities where isolation meant death. The problem is this: our brains were built for a completely different world, a world where your community was 150 people, not 150 million, a world where information moved slowly, not instantly, a world where no human being was designed to constantly observe the lives of thousands of other people every single day. And the people who choose not to use social media, even if they never describe it in these exact words, have sensed that mismatch, the mismatch between the brain they were born with and the environment social media has created. Now let's move into the science behind it, but not the surface-level statistics you usually hear. There is a concept in neuroscience called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reshape itself. The basic idea is simple. Your brain changes according to what you repeatedly do. The neural connections you use often become stronger. The connections you do not use gradually weaken and disappear. This is the principle of use it or lose it. And what does that mean for social media? Every time you scroll through a feed and stop on something emotionally stimulating, a controversial post, a photo that triggers envy, a video that activates fear, your brain is being trained. Not trained for concentration, not trained for deep thinking, but trained for rapid reaction to stimulation. Gloria Mark from the University of California, Irvine, has studied this for 20 years. She found that in the early 2000s, the average person could focus on a single task for about 2.5 minutes before becoming distracted. By 2012, that number had dropped to 75 seconds. By 2023, 47 seconds. 47 seconds. That is the average amount of time the human brain can stay focused on one thing before wanting to move to something else. But here is the part people rarely talk about. The distraction does not end when you put your phone down. Gloria Mark's research shows that after an interruption, the brain needs an average of 23 minutes to return to a state of deep focus. What does that mean in practical terms? If you check your phone 3 times during 1 hour of work, you may actually spend 0 minutes of that hour in truly deep thought. And the people who choose not to use social media, they are protecting something that most of us have lost without realizing it: the ability to stay with a thought long enough for it to become genuinely valuable. Blaise Pascal once wrote in the 17th century, "Is greater than all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." He wrote that 400 years before the iPhone existed, and it has never been more true than it is today. We often talk about the time wasted on social media, 2.5 hours a day, 38 days a year. Those numbers are impressive, but they miss something important. They only measure the time you spend using social media. They do not measure the cost of what happens afterward. There is an economic concept called opportunity cost, the value of what you give up when you choose one thing instead of another. And when applied to social media, the real opportunity cost is not 38 days of scrolling. It is what you did not do during those 38 days. You did not read the book you bought 3 years ago. You did not develop the skill you wanted to learn. You did not have deeper conversations with the person sitting next to you. But there is a second hidden cost that people talk about even less, and in my opinion, it is even more dangerous. It is the cost of always knowing too much about too many people. The human brain was designed to care about a limited number of individuals. Robin Dunbar studied this and proposed the famous number, 150. That is roughly the number of meaningful relationships the human brain can maintain. But on social media, you are following the lives of 500, 1,000, even 5,000 people. You know your high school friend just got divorced. You know your former coworker just bought a new house. You know someone you have not seen in 10 years, just traveled around the world. And your brain, which was never designed to process this volume of social information, responds in the only way it knows how: comparison. Leon Festinger called this social comparison theory, which he proposed in 1954. Human beings constantly evaluate themselves by comparing themselves to others. This is a natural instinct, and in the right environment, it can even be useful. But social media has turned it into a weapon against you. Because unlike real life, where you see both the good moments and the bad moments of other people on social media, you only see what people choose to show you. As a result, your brain is constantly comparing your entire life, including the ugly, messy, unfinished parts, to the edited version of someone else's life. This is a game with no winners, and the people who do not use social media have chosen not to sit down at the table. After years of observing people who choose to live without social media, I realize there are 3 things they understand more deeply than most of us. First, they understand the difference between an experience and proof of an experience. We are living in an era where many people feel that an experience has not really happened, unless it has been recorded and shared. Going to a restaurant without photographing the food feels like you never went. Watching a sunset without posting a story feels like you never saw it. Linda Henkel from Fairfield University calls this the photo-taking impairment effect. When you photograph something with the intention of sharing it, your brain outsources the memory to the camera and reduces its own attention. As a result, your memory of that moment becomes weaker than if you had simply been present. People who do not use social media are building real memories, not content. And over time, that rich collection of memories becomes the foundation of a stronger identity. Second, they understand that attention can be invested, not just spent. Most of us think about time as a resource, but very few people think about attention the same way. Attention is even more valuable than time, because you can physically be somewhere without truly paying attention. But you cannot truly pay attention without fully being there. Simone Weil once wrote, "Is greater than, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." When you genuinely pay attention to someone, not just looking at them while checking your phone at the same time, you are giving them the most valuable thing you have. The people who do not use social media have unintentionally become some of the most generous people in a world where genuine attention is becoming increasingly rare. Third, they have rediscovered the art of boredom. That may sound strange, but stay with me. In the modern world, boredom has become something we fear and avoid at all costs. Standing in line, look at the phone. Waiting for the elevator, look at the phone. Even going to the bathroom, look at the phone. But neuroscientists have discovered something remarkable that happens when your brain is allowed to become bored. The default mode network activates. This is the neural network that becomes active when you are not focused on the outside world. And this is exactly when your brain performs some of its most important work: processing emotions, consolidating memories, creating creative connections between seemingly unrelated ideas, and most importantly, forming your sense of self. When you fill every empty moment of your day with social media, you prevent your brain from carrying out these foundational processes, and over time, that affects your creativity, your self-awareness, and even your sense of identity. People who do not use social media, whether intentionally or accidentally, are protecting that space. They get bored, and inside that boredom, their brains begin to work. Up to this point, the story sounds fairly clear. Living without social media seems better. But I want to be honest about the more complicated parts. Because if we ignore them, we are simply replacing one simplistic story with another. Social media is not entirely the enemy. For many people, especially those living in remote areas, people with disabilities, members of minority communities, or individuals struggling with mental health challenges, social media is sometimes the only connection they have to others who truly understand them. It has created communities that could never exist in physical life because their members are scattered across the world. That matters deeply, and it should not be dismissed. And not everyone who avoids social media is making a healthy choice. Sometimes that absence comes from fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being seen. And in those cases, staying away from social media is not freedom. It is simply another form of withdrawal. The real question is not, do you use social media? The real question is, are you the one making that decision? Or is that decision making you? If you use social media and genuinely feel better, more connected, more inspired, then perhaps it is serving you. If you do not use it and you feel freer, more focused, more present, then perhaps that choice is right for you. But if you use it, and every time you open the app, you feel worse, yet still cannot stop, then there may be something there that needs to be faced honestly. There is a thought experiment I want you to try. Imagine yourself 10 years from now, looking back at your life. Do you think you will wish you had spent more time on social media? Or will you wish you had spent more time on other things? The answer to that question, the answer you feel immediately, before logic has time to intervene, that is the real answer. The people who do not use social media are not saints. They are not more perfect. They are not necessarily happier. But they have answered that question in their own way, and they are living consistently with that answer. And in a world where most of us already know the answer, yet continue doing the opposite, that is not a small thing. Your attention is the most valuable thing you have. Not because I say so, but because every major technology company in the world is spending billions of dollars trying to take it from you. Anything people are willing to pay billions of dollars to obtain must be valuable. The question is, how cheaply are you selling it? If this video made you stop and think even for a single minute, then that is already enough. Leave a comment. Not to feed the algorithm, but because sometimes writing down a thought is the first step toward truly understanding it.